So I'm going to talk about a time that the country wasn't so strong, and at a time where we didn't band together and make the most out of our individuality. So with that, Walt Whitman! What do you think of when you hear that name, Walt Whitman? Maybe you think of his respective, romanticism or transcendentalism. Well, to me, what I think is actually one of my really good friends from high school. Every single time when we go in and read about Walt Whitman, he would scream to the teacher, just get everybody's attention. He was a little bit of an attention hog. Just Walt Whitman in an Irish accent. He was Scottish, Irish, blonde hair, like he loved it. He was pretty smart, and he loved English class. He loved talking about history. He loved talking about America. So something similar between him and Walt Whitman was that they both were proud Americans. I mean, Ian Weller was this kid who just absolutely loved hunting. His parents came in at Ellis Island. He hunted with an M1 Garand that he got from like his grandfather. So I thought that was pretty cool. He used to go deer hunting with me all the time. I think he's American as John Wayne. Honestly, he'd eat apple pie, watching spaghetti westerns, and just quote it all the time. I was like, this dude is insane. He absolutely loved our country. So did Walt Whitman. That brings me back to the coincidence that he wrote Beat Beat Drums in 1861. Now, Beat Beat Drums was a response to the American Civil War, a time when the country wasn't banded together. We weren't cooperating, disagreeing on huge things, policies, American rights, and what it means to really be an American. He was heartbroken. And he goes on, it wasn't a coincidence in 1861 that he wrote this, in no means. He goes on to say that, to go on further, he was a true American. He volunteered at the hospital, and then once he heard of his brother, who was also invested in the war, he quit everything at the hospital in New York City and went to Washington. So over in Washington, he on his way over, he lost his wallet, he was having a terrible time, but he did find his brother. There was a obituary writing in the Tribune with First Lieutenant George W. Whitmore, which he thought was a mistake in the Tribune. So he immediately ran over, went to check on his brother. On his way over, losing his wallet and everything, he finds his brother with only nothing but a scratch on his face, just a huge scar. So that was fine, but on his way out, he noticed a pile of just dead bodies with amputated limbs, feet, hands, legs. It was really grotesque. It was gross. And that actually made him commit to volunteer for the service as a part-time nurse. So he had a lot of investment in the war, and he was just heartbroken with this. So in his journey over to Washington, he actually noticed that a lot of Americans weren't as invested as he was, and he thought that was just a total moral crime, especially being American. So that being said, he used to publish, as a poet or writer, loved talking about complex ideas. He published in Harper's Weekly magazine, one of the first really big-time weekly magazines, published 6,000 copies in the first week, which is unheard of in 1860. And in the first 6 months, he published 50,000. The Harper's brothers did. But there are two brothers that owned the weekly and the monthly magazine. The weekly talked about the war and advertised it, educated everybody, and really wanted people to know what was going on. The monthly magazine, however, was more concerned with entertaining people. So with this entertainment, they used to publish Dickens, Great Expectations, stuff like that, just to give people an escape from reality. Well, Whitman really didn't like that. He noticed this shift in audience. The monthly magazine was way more popular than the weekly. Nobody was reading his works. He finally decided, hey, went to Harper brother, I think his name was George, coincidentally, just as his brother was. And he was like, hey, this is really messed up. You haven't published anything recognizing the war. How about you publish this paper? which was this poem, which was a challenge to the American people to rise together, band together, and get over this huge American atrocity. So he finally did publish the Harper's Monthly magazine, and it was a wild success, but it wasn't recognized as widely as you'd like. But the huge conclusion here is that Whitman recognized his audience, and he recognized the American people. He was so heartbroken, he wanted to convince the American people that they really need to get over this. There are various lines in the poem explaining, challenging the Americans so fierce you were, and pound your drums so shrill you bugles blow. Whitman says that you should end this war. He recognizes people in the church, he recognizes farmers, he recognizes every blue-collar trade, and says, together we need to band and get over